Oh, what? It is. It's on. Oh my, I can't believe this. Wow. All right. Lovely. So, if I'm live with one bar, yes, out in Chacahua, and I've only got the one bar and I can get live on Facebook, I'm really happy. So I'm just going to wait a little bit till a few people join in.
Are you looking at you or me?
No, I'm looking at you. But let me just show where we are. This is what? Chacahua. Chacahua. Andrew, come back. Good. Andrew, he has been here quite a bit. And he's going to tell us why this place is really, really, really special. It's
Yeah, as you can see, not only is it
nice.
absolutely.
Oh yes, it came back. Okay, I'm gonna stop panning. I'm just gonna stay straight on you, Andrew, because every time I turn it, it cuts out. All right, we've only got one bar here, friends. Just the one bar. We're in Chacahua, and Chacahua. Andrew tells me there's a golden triangle which comes to Lake Chacahua and San Jose and Mazunte.
Yeah, if you were to connect those lines from Mazunte up here northwest a little bit on the coast to Chacahua and then up to Oaxaca City, that triangle have some of the most beautiful, protected, and diverse land, I think, in the world. Right here, multiple species of tropical birds. This island's created actually by the Pacific coast, being connected with a laguna on the backside that's brackish water from a little bit of ocean water that enters, depending on the tides, and then fresh water that it mixes with. Creates a mineral mud at the bottom of the laguna that's perfect for tonifying and regenerating skin, soothing up. It completely replenishes the pores of the body as well and cleans it out. But aside from being a surfer's paradise because of the Point Break that's created here on the rocks, this is an extremely magical point on Earth. The nature here provides for an essentially self-protected ecosystem or an air bubble. We're receiving air right now off of the far Pacific Ocean that's hitting the mangrove here. And the mangrove extends all the way around the backside of the island to the far mountain. And within this cove here, the mangrove cleans air 10 times faster than trees. So even if you're up in the high point of the mountain...
Oh, we're back. Okay. So even if you're up from the mountains, you were saying?
So even if you're up in the high mountains here, where the air is extremely clean because it's gone through 3 cloud formations where the precipitation is dropping the pollution and the air particles each time. So the higher up the mountain that you go to San Jose, the cleaner that the air gets. Even then, here in Chacahua, the air can be even cleaner than those mountains. And the reason being is because the mangrove...
Sí, gracias.
The mangrove...
Sí, sí, muchas gracias. No, eso no es mío. No, esto es... No es mío. Sí, gracias. All right, keep going. Sorry, brother.
Right, so from the mangrove here, it cleans the air 10 times faster than trees, than pretty much any tree. So that means the clean air that we're already receiving off of the Pacific coast is hitting this cove right here and gets cleaned again and recycled into the area. And it's because of how it's arriving from the far Pacific all the way from Asia. It's hitting our far corner here where we have our lighthouse. It gets cleaned once, it recycles up, falls back over this part of the coast on the ocean, and gets hit again by the major junction or forest of mangrove on the other side of the island. Which, like I said, essentially you have an air bubble, like a snow globe, of protected air and some of the cleanest air on the planet. They say that this is one of the best places in the world to live for anyone who has breathing problems. Asthma, pneumonia, bronchitis, past history of smoking, anything like that. You can clean out your lungs here with a little bit of exercise faster than almost anywhere else on the planet because of the quality of the air, because of how it gets cleaned from the mangrove and because it's arriving clean already from an unpolluted area. It's really remarkable. Now, the whole ecosystem here is an expression of that too, because the diversity is immense. Not only can you get some of the freshest tuna, octopus, marlin, some of the most incredible delicacies of the ocean here. Right now it's season of lobster as well, so for any of you seafood fanatics, this is absolute heaven on earth. But the history of the people here in the kind of food that they eat, they incorporate into their diet. Foods like iguana, well, they don't like to, and it's not smiled upon too much, but tortuga used to be a huge part of the diet and the culture, which is turtle. And actually, if you look into Chinese medicine and a lot of other forms of natural medicine, even a lot of forms of witchcraft in parts of the world, they say that the oil from the tortuga, with just a spoonful, it'll do the same thing or better than an inhaler as far as opening up the lungs. And in fact, with 3 spoonfuls of that oil in a day, you can reverse some bronchial problems or breathing problems that maybe have been persistent for years. It's that powerful of a bronchodilator. So an iguana as well helps with breathing, increases lung capacity as well. The entire place is riddled with magic.
Este es mío. Gracias.
Back in the Laguna in parts, they have crocodiles that are in the Laguna naturally. The wildlife here is incredible. We're watching cranes and swans and all sorts of different tropical birds right now bathing in the ocean. This is really, really a magical place. Not only is it one of the most energetically pure places on the planet as well, but the history of the culture apparently here on this island are some of the more powerful spirit workers in all of Mexico, and they're protected by the town outside, which is almost acts as a gateway between this mangrove, this laguna, these islands, and kind of the outside world. That town is called Rio Grande, and that's supposed to be one of the most prominent witchcraft towns in all of Mexico. So they almost act as a protected border before the people are even able to get onto the island. Beyond that, this is one of the only places in Mexico where every day you can get a blood red sunrise over the ocean, which is really difficult usually because, especially on the Pacific coast, you're facing west. So on the Pacific coast, 9 times out of 10, you're seeing a sunset and not a sunrise. But here, we get the sunrise over the ocean because of how the island curves and the cove is pointed towards this far end that we're on. And then in the evening, the sun goes up and over, and it sets in the back behind us over the laguna, and you get the reflection over the laguna. Or you can go up to the lighthouse, and the whole strip of the island runs along the Pacific coast of the ocean, and you can off the wet sand all the way down for, I think, like 5 or 6 kilometers all the way down the entire side of that beach.
Oh wow, beautiful. Oh, there's my juice.
Good call.
Mm-mm.
Is that agua de mango?
Yep. Mango and piña and what else? Anyway, keep going, brother. This is amazing information. Friends, really, let me know if you can hear him well, because I saw a comment that I should put him closer to the mic. I'm about 2 feet away from him. I feel really rude sticking this thing in his face. So can you guys hear me well? Yeah?
Do you have an ID with you?
Yes?
Because for me to be able to rent a surfboard, they ask for an ID, and mine got lost in the fire.
Oh, wow. Do you need one of mine?
Would that be
Yep.
possible?
Yeah, of course it would. Just 1 minute there.
It looks so familiar.
I was here during most of quarantine. from February through May.
I have never been here.
Do you want to be on the live? I'm doing a Facebook live. Do you want to be seen or not?
I'm good.
I'm
No,
good,
not
no.
a credit card, but just an ID.
Ah.
Or like a driver's license.
Who are you renting from?
From 3 doors down?
Chewy.
The one that has the...
He's got blue tables in front there and everything.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
He's
Tell him
been.
it's a friend of mine. Yeah. He asks who's that.
Okay. And your name is?
Andrew. I tell him Harry. He knows me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Cool. Yeah. You gotta turn it.
They really stuck it in there, huh?
Oh yeah. You have to get this joke going.
We don't want to blow up the juice.
I think we're gonna.
There we go.
That's it.
They should go.
No, no. No, the other way would be better
Oh, yeah?
with that one. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Great. So keep going, please, brother.
So, it's amazing how a place when we arrive has a special energy. A lot of times people will attribute it to the location on the planet, its geological composition of stones, maybe under the earth, what crystals and minerals it holds. But a lot of time what we don't think about is the air. The air makes a huge deal of difference. What we breathe in dictates inflections in voice, the air pressure and where we are changes our blood pressure as well. And when you're breathing extremely clean and efficient air, your body can achieve more quicker when it's put to a task. But also, for the body that's not adapted to it, you can feel very heavy. And it's because you're receiving such clean, amazing, healing oxygen that at times the body would put itself in a healing state just to receive and absorb that air and to be able to continue its process of the dying off and regrowth of cells. So this is an extremely special place. I think it's a powerful place for healing, for physical exercise. Not only is it, like I said, a popular surf spot, which can turn around your health as well, just skimming the ocean water and breathing that salty air. But this is a paradise for a lot of reasons, and I think to me one of the most important reasons, or one of the biggest factors, is that air quality. It's the clean air that comes in off the coast and gets cleaned again here in the mangrove and kind of self-recycles here in the area. Now you add in the culture of the animals that they eat that add to helping with breathing anyways, and this place is a recuperative paradise. It's your refuge. A lot of the community, even the tourists, spend most of their times in hammock throughout the day. It's a beautiful place to be because it's a place where you can truly feel there's not too much obligation unless you create obligation.
Yeah.
Coming up here we have the full moon, and to see the full moon out over this bay, over the cove, at nighttime, like last night, we had a beautiful storm of lightning, electricity, relámpagos in Spanish, out over here towards the east. And to have the full moon out lighting up the ocean, to still see the waves at night, and then the electricity from the lightning, it's just magic. Day or night, there's always a show going on. It's an incredible place to be. A lot of people come to relax and be lazy, but actually now with the recent events in quarantine, a lot more people have been stepping up and volunteering and helping local families. A lot of the local families have been doing construction and cleaning their properties to prepare for when more travelers come back. And it's really amazing to see a community kind of come together like that. And it's fun to see tourists who were at once just being lazy and were in the habit of being lazy transition into places of work, of productivity, of functionality, and to see their attitudes both before and after that, their self-image, their body change, their mentality change. It is an absolutely transformative place if you open up those gateways within your soul to allow it to bring in those positive changes. yeah, being here on an island made it pretty easy for them with this whole situation with quarantine and the COVID. They're very auto-sufficient here. When they closed the island for quarantine, it was no big deal, it was no worry, there was no concern about getting in stuff from the outside world, because people have been living here for generations, over 100 years. And that's before there was even a greater system to import stuff. It's before there was, you know, Frito-Lays and chips and all sorts of things like this, and candy that the kids had. And you can survive here on a things provided merely by the trees around you. Nanches, coconuts, mangoes that are still producing right now, all the way up until August, when the season starts, and end of March. So that's like 4 to 5 months of fresh mangoes. The tropical fruit, the fishing opportunities here. These right here are tamales with mejillones, which are mussels. And actually mussels are some of the best thing that you can eat as well for breathing, for lung health. The Chinese and traditional Chinese medicine say it helps to tonify yin energy. It disperses heat from the body and keeps the body cool, as well as octopus as well. Octopus also helps to disperse heat from the body and cool it down. So it just seems like this land and the ocean provide what you need, not only to have a good life here, but to have an abundant life in general, to live with health. It actually wasn't until the system started importing processed foods, packaged foods, sugar, and fruits and vegetables that were grown with chemicals and up to, you know, international Western standards, that the health of the people here started going down. There's still locals on this island who are living above 90 years old. Recently, I think a few years ago, there was a man who died. He was a local man here, and he was 105 years old when he died, and they said still in good health. Okay, that means, you know, this is a place that just sustains life. You don't even have to do much. Chipil is a native leaf here. It's a green leaf that's extremely healthy and cancer-fighting and cleansing. And one of the locals explained to me that part of the reason that the people used to live so long is because they used to eat chipil in everything daily. They would make soups with it. All of their fish dishes had the chipil. They're eating tamales with chipil in it all the time. And because some of these traditions have kind of gone away over time, the health of the people starts to go down with it. So it's amazing to see what the system can do to a place like this, even when it is autosufficient and has everything it needs to provide for itself. If we don't live in synchronicity with the land and with what it provides, then the system will still take down our health. And that's the beautiful thing about being able to tap into local produce, into seasonal food, and being able to eat a diet based on what the land provides while you're there. It's a whole different way of living. It's not going to the supermarket and taking a pick out of something on the shelf and having to look at the ingredients to make sure that hopefully it doesn't have too many bad things in it. It's completely different when you can walk up and take your fruit from a tree, when you have someone deliver a dish to your door that's made with homemade and locally acquired items. It's an entirely different way of life.
Wow.
Yeah, it is definitely not a place.
So, this place we are talking about, Chacahua, is an hour away from where Masunta is, where I am staying and have been for the last 5 months, right? It's an hour away.
Well, technically driving from here, you have to get on a boat to get to the mainland, and that's about a 20-minute to half-hour boat ride. From the mainland, you take another half an hour taxi ride into the next major town, which I was speaking of earlier, Rio Grande. And then from Rio Grande, it's about an hour and a half to Puerto Escondido. And then from Puerto Escondido, about another hour and 15 minutes to Mazunte. So in total, it's about 3 hours traveling to get here, based on the different stops that you have to make.
Okay. I thought it was really quick.
Yeah, on that highway, when you have your own car, it definitely goes by a lot faster. But when you have to take public transportation from place to place and hop around, it adds up to about a 3 hour trip. And sometimes a little longer.
Yeah, well, I was driving, so when you drive, you tend to sort of, you know, notice the time more because you're more attentive
Yeah.
to it, right? So
Absolutely right.
for me, it felt like 45-minute drive.
Yeah. Especially
Anyway.
with how beautiful it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
But then it goes up to the mountain, right, to San Jose, and this is like your triangle that you call the Garden of Eden in Mexico, yeah?
To me, this is absolutely, and I've heard rumors, I've heard old myths or legends that people say that Oaxaca and this area specifically of southern Mexico, some people say that it was the original Garden of Eden that was spoken about in the Bible, which of course is debatable, questionable, everything like that. But it takes coming here and being here, I think, to understand what makes someone say that. The energy is absolutely phenomenal and changing, ever changing. From here, these are coastal lagoons with crocodiles, and down to Zinte, you've got desert. As you head up the mountain, either from this area or from Zinte up to San Jose, you cross tropical desert, and then you get to the jungle, and you get to the rainforest, where it rains 60 to 80% of the year, and then above that you have the high pine forest that San Jose is in. So that's already 4 major and technically 6 minor ecosystems that have completely different bacteria, completely different flora and fauna, and you can traverse that distance in just under 4 hours. To go from the coast where these lagoons are all the way up to the high pine forest. Now if you drop just another 40 minutes on the backside of San Jose, you drop into Miahuatlan, which is also one of the more special places in Oaxaca, because this is where they produce a lot of mezcal that Oaxaca makes and exports to the world. Mezcal, I'm sure a lot of you know, is becoming right now the most popular drink. Has a lot less monoglyceride. I think it's monosaccharides. So it's in monosaccharides or monoglycerides, I think saccharides, but the body digests it a lot easier. It doesn't affect the liver as much. In fact, a lot of the alcohol is burned away in your mouth or in your esophagus. It's absorbed, a lot of it, before it even goes through to your liver. So it's a much different of an effect. If you haven't had mezcal, I don't drink a lot, but I only prefer mezcal maybe one every 2 weeks or something like this. But it's much more of a medicinal liquor than it is something to get drunk on. And even the effect of it is different. It's a lot more of a high. It's a lot more of a change of mind than it is a drunkenness or anything like that. So those deserts, those agave deserts that are also semi-tropical rain deserts, because right now it's the rainy season up there, so they explode with grass, they explode with different shrubs and vines and trees only for a few months.
Back. Oh yes, it's back. It's
right.
back. Oh my god. I'm so excited. I really want you to say more because you know so much about the place, and I'm living here. I've been living here for 5 months, and this place is healing me every day. On the beach there in Mazunte, the magnetite on the beach, the black sand, it's magnetic. I was walking in that every day. Then I moved up to the hill. Now I'm at the top, and I'm getting that energy from Punta Cometa, the southernmost point in Mexico. So I'm in this magic triangle, which you call the Garden of Eden, and I know it is. It's the I've been saying it since I got here. This is the Garden of Eden. This is just the perfect place. Talk about Oaxaca, why Oaxaca is so special.
Yeah, I truly believe it's one of the most magical places on earth. I mean, the history is incredible. The Zapoteco people were separate from the Mayans. They still have people who are up here in these mountains speaking Zapoteco who have been there for hundreds of years. Their generations have. And they were not defeated by the Spanish. They were not overcome by the Aztec or anything like that. They're some of the most resilient people in Mexico. There's over 60 native languages in Mexico. A lot of people don't know that. But Spanish is definitely not the first language here. So it's really incredible to go to these different native parts and to meet people, or to start to even dip your toes into what the land provides in these places that have been so protected. yeah.
Andrew, speak louder, please.
Okay.
Someone says. Hang on.
Yeah, just turned on the...
I don't know, man. I'm so sorry, guys. Volume needs turning up. Okay. Wow. I haven't been watching the comments. Turn the volume up. Alright. Did you hear any of it? Oh, God. Alright, let's get up closer.
Okay. You want me to... Sorry.
Yeah? Okay, you gotta turn it around yourself.
Okay, let's see. Alright guys, so we're gonna let Santos take a break and eat, and hopefully you can hear me a bit better. But I was mentioning how up here in the mountains where I've been living for the majority of the last year and 8 months, almost 2 years now, up in those mountains, they have a native people called the Zapoteco people. And one of my best friends up there at the hostel that I work at is a native 20-year-old young man who still speaks Zapoteco. And this is a language that's almost lost, but it speaks to the resilience of the people and the self-sufficiency of the land. It's a really rugged mountain up there. Like I was saying, you go through 4 to 5 ecosystems just to get to the top. But the fact that that language still exists now, even after the Spanish Inquisition, even after attacks from Aztecs and from the other way from the Mayans, as they were migrating up and eventually became the Aztec people, it's incredible. This land carries a force that even a lot of other people don't want to mess with. So on that note, for example, brujeria, or magic, witchcraft, is part of definitely the history of Mexico and part of the culture. And a lot of the people from the north who practice magic along the northern border of Mexico, they're almost terrified of Oaxaca. And it's not because of bad black magic or anything like that. It's because the purity of this land, the purity of these people. And they say that that's why black magic can never defeat white magic. Because when you have a pure heart, when you believe in your way of life, when you're a strong, forceful person, then any fear or manipulation that anyone tries to throw at you, it doesn't matter. You can cut through it. And apparently some of the most powerful white magicians, some of the most powerful healers have come out of or practiced right here in Oaxaca. And that's why a lot of the magicians in the north are kind of scared of this area, because in the north they're more known to practice black magic. And they don't like to mess with the white magicians down here. They know that playing with the tonal wizard can maybe bring you much more horrible things in your karma than playing around with anybody else. So there's a lot of things that make it self-protected, kind of in that way that I was saying. Not only is the air self-recycling, and it creates a self-protected, atmosphere here from the rest of the world, from the pollution. We don't have to worry about any car pollution, not even from ships on the ocean or anything like that. So not only is the ecosystem self-protected in a way, but the nature of the people carries such a powerful force that it's not messed with from many directions. Not a lot of people want to touch Oaxaca in a negative way, because Oaxaca slaps back. As Santos was saying, over there in Mazunte, and actually along the majority of different parts of the coast here, and here in Chacahua as well, there's a lot of black sand beaches, and that black sand is pretty much pure magnetic iron, that you can put a magnet down to the black sand, and you can see the magnetic fields on the magnet, because the iron is sticking together, making these little formations and towers and spirals, so you can see the expression of that magnetivity. Just walking on those sands, or laying down on those sands, or burying yourself in that sand can completely reset and harmonize your blood cycle, can completely reset your body's rhythm, your heartbeat, grounds you immensely, just having your feet connected to that earth. And here in Chacahua, they have parts of the beach that have natural white sands that are pure, beautiful, beaming white sands that are natural to here. And then just on the backside of the island near the laguna, they have the black sands that are full of the iron. And it just shows the you know, it's an expression not just of the diversity that exists, that black and white in one place, but it's harmony. It's an expression of harmony in a way that you have grounding low vibrations to bring you back into your center, to heal you, the iron, but then you have the white sands to elevate you up out of your, maybe out of your past, out of your culture, out of your bad habits. And all of that potential is right here. In Punta Cometa in Mazunte, not only is it essentially like the southernmost point in Mexico, but the Zapoteco people, and I was told the Mayans as well, would send their astrologers there to Punta Cometa, since it's this southern point out on the bottom of Mexico. It's kind of down here, so they're sticking out into the ocean, which turns the world above you, the sky above you, into like essentially a snow globe. You feel like you're, don't you, when you're in Punta Cometa, you feel like you're in the middle of a snow globe, looking at this circular sky around you, beaming in every direction. It's only comparable, the night sky here, to me, that I've seen, to the mountains, like high mountains, like in Colorado above 4,000 meters, and to the deserts of the Middle East. And those are the only places that I've known. I haven't been all over the world, but those are some of the few places that I know where when you look at the night sky, it lights up so bright like a map, it's hard to see constellations because there are not, you know, there's not much of a difference between the brightest stars in the sky and the rest of them. They're all so bright that it's hard to tell where any constellations are because you're just watching a beaming, brilliant show of dots everywhere you look. It's extremely magic. And then sitting there on that point, watching the world just rotate around you, close to the equator, out in the ocean, makes it extremely easy. It made it extremely easy for them to map out the stars. And I think that's not only why the Mayans and a lot of the tribes in Mexico were such good navigators, but they had such a good understanding of the astral worlds, of the planes above us. And they had such a good connection to the heart of the sky, which is one of the deities that they praised all the time. I know a healer in Guatemala, and he's actually French, but has been living in Guatemala for over 30 years now, 40 years, and every time he goes to practice healing, he says he practices it in essentially the Mayan way, in opening up and asking for permission from the heart of the earth and the heart of the sky, because they believe, and then the 4 cardinal directions. They believe that you need not only permission from the 4 cardinal directions on the earth, but from the heart of the sky and from the heart of the earth beneath you, to bring in all of that energy to actually bring healing into manifested physical form in front of you. So try it when you pray over yourself, try it when you practice your own healing at home. Ask for the 4 directions, the 4 cardinal directions in the heart of the earth and the heart of the sky to guide your hands and to channel their energy through you. Just try it and see what happens. But there's a reason things have been practiced for thousands of years. And this is a place where those practices speak a little bit louder, and where because of this pure energy, you have a little bit more of a mirror in your face. And I like that. I like a place where when I go there, the energy is so strong that the karma almost doesn't let you get away with anything. It's almost as if, you know, if you want to mess with Oaxaca, she'll mess right back real quick. It's a place where you can't rush, you can't go fast, you have to go slow in Oaxaca. If you try to rush something and it's not feeling natural at a natural pace, don't do it. Pretty much all of the problems that I've seen happen in southern Mexico, extending from the Yucatan out here, happen when people are rushing stuff. They're trying to go too fast. They made plans and they get let down by their own expectations. And Oaxaca is a really good breaker of expectations and helps us to live in the moment, because you realize when you live at the natural place of your environment that it's that environment that dictates how you get things done. It's not what you want to do. And yes, you can have force upon the world to achieve things, but sometimes if you push too hard, you just get pushed back. So this is definitely a place where you have to take things slow, move all in the moment. If you feel like you're pushing yourself or someone else to get something done, then take your time, because that's how the karma just sneaks up on you. I don't think the energy of Oaxaca likes people who don't want to sit down and enjoy a good meal, or who don't want to enjoy every sip of their coffee that was, you know, picked locally, the beans from the mountain up the hill and roasted as well. It's a place that demands its attention in a way. And I think all the most truly valuable and simple things in the world are that way. If you've ever had just an amazing piece of fruit, whether you even know it or not, it's demanding your attention from that first bite, because you take that bite and you're so in love with that piece of fruit that you're captivated by it. And all of Oaxaca to me is that way, is that kind of an experience. And when you give it that attention, when you give it that love, that energy, that kind of coddling to your time here, and you treat the land beneath your feet as if it's the love of your life, then it gives back a lot. It's a really, really, really beautiful place to be. It's really, really healing waters. I mean, up this mountain, there's waterfalls there's a lot of myths, there's a lot of legends that some of them are shamanic waterfalls, they're magic waterfalls that, you know, some people's rites of passage was to have to bathe in these waterfalls, and still people do. I know an old man here on this island who every year he bathes in a waterfall up on the mountain in San Jose after the rainy season to catch the fresh rainwater straight from the clouds that rushes down the mountain, and something he's been doing every year. This is a man who's over 80 years old. He pushes a wheelbarrow on the sand every day. He just came by earlier, and he sells homemade agua de coco, like popsicles with honey from ants that he's cultivating, or it's not from ants, from bees that live inside of pieces of wood that he himself is cultivating and working with those bees. And every single year he goes up to bathe in one of those waterfalls up in San Jose, where I've been living. And you can see it in his skin, in his face. He doesn't smoke. He every day goes by with his wheelbarrow, and it's extremely heavy, especially pushing it in the sand. It's a little different to push a wheelbarrow in the sand that's super heavy, but he does this every day, and he's in extremely good health. His mind is sharp. He's still learning English, and he has, you know, there's no obligation for a local person to learn a language from another place. They don't need to here. If people come here and don't speak Spanish, that's the problem with the people who arrive. But this is such a self-protected and self-sufficient community. They really don't need anything. They host people, and they have tourism here because they want to, because they love to share their place. And that's a different thing, I think, than depending on it. And that's what was really cool during the quarantine, is to see that even when things were essentially shut down or closed, they weren't really. All the families were still in function and in flow and in harmony. And yes, there wasn't much activity or much business, but not much was lost in the end, you know, because in the end, money in a place where you don't need it it's preliminary, it's for fun, it's surface level. And that's, I think, really the beauty of having an opportunity to come and live in a place like this, to get away from money for a while, to get away from that bond, those attachments. Yeah, exactly. Dean, the best things in life are absolutely free. And when you live in a place long enough where it provides for you, and where you can provide for yourself, because the life there is that giving, it's that abundant and that nurturing, it really helps us to detach from money, to let go of these things that we tell ourselves that we need. Because it's a lot different what we need versus what we think we need. And I truly believe it takes 6 months living without money, or coming to a place and working as a volunteer and living off the land, to realize how absolutely non-supplementary money can be as well, and how much of kind of an illusion that money is in places where the land already provides, which is most of the world, to be honest. Most of the world has landscapes that provide for the people in a way that they need it there. For instance, I don't know if many of you know this, but California alone, the state of California, has enough produce that it can supply for the world's hunger, for every person on the planet. Just California has enough produce coming out of it to feed the world at least one plate a day. That's incredible, just from California. So imagine if we were to be rightly allocating resources from around the world, This place is riddled with coconuts here. And I don't know if you guys have heard about, I think there was a documentary called like the Cocoa Revolution or something like this recently, where they showed that you can essentially live 100% off just a coconut. Not only does the water that it provides is extremely hydrating with probiotics, the meat of it has protein and oils and fats. Of course, you can extract the oil from the coconut to protect your skin, your hair, helps with digestion, everything, all just from that one coconut. And then now recently they found that they can use the fibers of the coconut to produce a fuel. And if you mix the stringy fibers with an adobe kind of a mud mix, you can make some of the strongest bricks on the planet, and some of the most heat preventing and what would you call it, insulating construction material on the planet just from coconut. So to live in a place here where coconut is everywhere you look and they're just falling from the sky at a point where you have to look out because you don't want to get your neck broken by a coconut falling from 20 meters in the air. That's another expression of the auto-efficiency here, the self-sufficiency that this land has. I think the more that we learn from Mother Nature, the more that we stop asking for so much and just using the abundance that it already provides. A lot of the world's economic issues are going to go away, and the system knows this. The world economics are so destroyed with America buying rice from China and then selling rice to China as well. I don't know why China needs rice from America at all, but there's so many things that are just completely mismatched around the world, when in places like this, all of Oaxaca, especially when you combine Oaxaca, Chiapas, and the Yucatan, just the food, the natural produce that comes out of those three areas of Mexico can provide for more than just Mexico. But hopefully in time, the world economics and how things are traded and passed around changes. Because right now, a lot of Mexico's finest materials and resources are being exported to different places. The pine trees up in the high mountains of San Jose right now are kind of dying off from a similar infection that's passing through California and Canada. The pine beetles are a plague that are killing off a lot of pine trees. But the pine trees were imported anyways. They're not really local. And as Rami said about hemp seeds, I'm starting to and hoping to get in touch with some local families up in the mountain, so that once their pine trees die on the different parts of the land up there, we can go back to old school farming. Because according to the owner of my hostel, just 25 years ago, there were no pine trees across the whole mountain. And the whole mountain was blocks, like cuadras, squares of potatoes, corn, purple corn, like native purple corn that is not from Monsanto. It's real corn that carries tons of antioxidants. It wipes out colon cancer from the body. It repairs the gut. It cleans the brain. It strengthens the arteries and the artery walls. There was a lot of things native to Oaxaca that they were growing here in these mountains before the pine trees arrived. And I'm hoping that we can use this natural dying off of the pine trees to return back to a state of more old school farming and agriculture to provide better quality food to the land, and hemp as well. Because hemp also is really great for cleaning air. I'm sure you guys know that, but the hemp plant and the marijuana plant cleans air 2 to 3 times as fast as normal trees, and it's a lot better for the soil. The pine trees make the soil acidic, and it's extremely competitive, the pine trees are, so it kind of kills the quality of the soil over time. And that's why I believe that the pine beetles are happening there, because I believe that it's a natural process of the land saying no more. We can't take this acidic crap. Every year the mountains up there have been producing more mushrooms year by year, and there was myths that because those mushrooms are magic mushroom mountains, there grow species of mushrooms in those mountains that don't grow anywhere else on the planet, only here in Oaxaca, and some of them only spreading down as far as Colombia and nowhere else in the world. There was a lot of myths that because of the hippies from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, and not only hippies but people from North Mexico as well, passing through Oaxaca to get these mushrooms out of the land. They didn't know how, and they were ripping them out by the root ball. And there was a lot of myths that the mushroom population was dying off over time. But after speaking with some local people, they say that the mushrooms have been returning in almost exponential numbers in the last 5 years, year by year. And like I said, these are mushrooms that don't grow anywhere else, and you can't, some of these species, you can't get them to grow in boxes, in grow bags. They only grow in their natural habitats, in their natural ecosystems, because of the quality of the soil that they're in. They only grow in the rainy season. Some of them are called derumbes, which means landslide, because they only grow where there's a landslide after fresh rain in their natural ecosystems. You can't get them to replicate in boxes. You can't get them to, people have tried to put the spores and create their own landslide, but they won't do it. These are some of the most sensitive and intelligent fungal networks on the planet. And the fact that the Earth is replicating their population in an almost exponential rate in the last 5 years shows us that we need them. Shows us that, Mama Earth wants us to have these gifts, wants us to have this fruit of the gods, essentially. Wants us to be able to more and more expand our consciousness, that not only does maybe Mother Nature want it, but we need it. And it wouldn't be happening otherwise, because people have been ripping them out and the population did decrease for a while, but only in the last 5-10 years is it making an absolute comeback on its own. Not man-created, not man-inspired. Mother Nature itself is taking the reins back. And to me, when I started hearing things like that about how this land, how it is and how it's self-recuperating, it gives me a lot of faith. It inspires me a lot to think about other parts of the world as well, and whether it's mankind or the actual natural ecosystems are going to take back and do what's best for them. Because I think we all know about deforestation and we all know about the destruction of mankind on this earth, but to be in places where the earth is still fighting back, it's beautiful. You can feel it. You can really sense that mankind is blessed to be here, and there's a difference between having the privilege to be somewhere and thinking that we deserve to be there, or having the expectation to be there. But in Oaxaca, you can really feel that it's a privilege to be here. You can really feel that it is a blessing to be on this land. Every time I go in the ocean, I ask for permission. Every time that I go up that mountain, I speak to the mountain, ask for it to protect me as I go up. And the land speaks. Hola, tía. No pasa nada, pero si pasas a ratito.
Si quieres reinar, te rodeas.
Ok. ¿No regresas? ¿Y cuándo regresas luego? Sí, muchas gracias, tía. No, sorry. Yeah, the community. Oh my God. And when you can actually connect to beautiful people in a beautiful place who not only want a good life for themselves, but for the people around them, I don't know if I've had a better feeling than that personally. And you add in all that with just a good quality of life, with the food, the ecosystems, and to me this is the Garden of Eden. This is 100% the most blessed place on earth. But don't tell anybody, because we don't want to, I'm joking, but at the same time, shock tourism happens, and once somewhere becomes popular, especially on an electronic international scale, I believe that Oaxaca in the next 5 years is going to become one of the most popular travel locations on the planet, because of the mezcal, because of the mushrooms, because of this coast right here, because of the surfing opportunities, because of the quality of food, because people are tired of being in the system. I do believe that Oaxaca is going to be the next utopias on planet Earth for people who want good living. But that's going to naturally incur a lot of tourism, a lot of travelers that come through. So it's something that we want to foster the growth in a sustainable way, in a natural way, in a loving way that's not destroying the land. There's people here, local people who have land that they want to sell. And a lot of them, it's because they get their eyes a little wide with the idea of money and the opportunity of having a place in the global market, having a little bit of cash in pocket, which I understand, I relate to. That's natural as well, to want to have a place in the global financial system. But we need to be really careful on who we give our land to and what they're going to do with that land. You know, it's okay to be financially independent and to make money. There's nothing wrong with that. But to sell your land to somebody who's going to take it, destroy it, and build a hotel that's not eco-efficient, that's not sustainable with its electricity and water use, we don't want to see that kind of stuff happen. We want this place to grow in a sustainable way. We want to see people who are doing eco-construction. We want to see people who are building rain traps during the rainy season so they can capture their rain and give it to their garden so that their garden provides their food, you know, and everything like this. I mean, this is the next absolute utopia on Earth for doing eco-construction, for using recycled materials, for capturing rain, for recycling your bath water, everything like that. If you're not using biodegradable soap here, then you're doing a disharmony. You know, this is a place where plastic shouldn't even be on the island, because it's such a beautiful place. So hopefully soon, because it's so small as well, we can keep the community in a way where they move in that direction, where they put these initiatives into place. You know, no plastic bags or only biodegradable products, things like that. Hopefully we can even move entirely away from carton cigarettes, so that we can keep the cigarette butts off the beach and out of the waters. Because I don't know if a lot of you know this, but one cigarette butt can contaminate up to, I think it's 80 gallons of water, which is like, what is that? That's 320 liters of water or something like that. That's a lot just from one cigarette butt. And if you imagine, you know, sadly there's still plenty on this beach, and it's mostly from tourists. So I think if we start initiatives like that to make things all organic, you know, only organic tobacco with rolling papers, you know, keep out plastic, have better ways of getting trash off the island and everything like that, then this can stay as a healing refuge and increase its potential as a healing refuge for people who need it. The owner of the hostel that I work at in the mountains, he's a native man to the area, and very, very amazing man. He's got a beautiful family. He's a hardworking man, independent. Yes, exactly, Jacqueline. Hemp farm, celery, earth ships. Absolutely, that's exactly what we need. And sorry about the Wi-Fi. That's why it looks like there's a delay in the speech and lip movement. That's just the service here. Don't worry, guys. We're on an island. I wish I could get the Wi-Fi to be a bit faster. But what was I just starting to talk about? We were saying, oh yeah, my owner up in the mountains, the owner of the hostel there, is a native local man. He put 3 of his children through university. One of them is finishing private university as a lawyer right now. He's a very self-made man, and doesn't live, you know, rich and over the top or anything like that. Just humbly, very humbly. But he is, I believe, over 50 years old, and he still apparently has never even done the magic mushrooms from his own land. And when I ask him about that, you know, well, why not, Gabrielle? You know, what makes you, are you worried? Is it, you know, is it something that you just don't believe in? And he said, no, I just thought it was mostly for people and their trauma, for people who need healing. And to me, it's like, well, you know, of course it can be. And of course, the majority of the people, whether they even know it or not, that's what's happening. They're coming for that, and they're getting healing from trauma, from past lives, from their life, from relationships, for me, it was healing from antibiotic damage to my gut and to my emotions that completely destroyed me. So yeah, absolutely, it can be healing for people's trauma. And if the mushrooms are for that, and the mushrooms are an expression of the land and what it provides, then just think about what this place can be in general for people who come here, not even needing the mushrooms, just needing to be in a beautiful place, just needing to get away from the world, just needing to breathe good air, just needing to watch a beautiful storm and realize that all their problems are so small. We need places like this. We need places like this, and if we can keep them and maintain them in good condition, then they can be easily, well, better shared with the world. So definitely, if you have a chance, come down to Oaxaca. You did spell it right there, Martin. It's Oaxaca. And look it up if you can. I'm sure if you've heard about mezcal, you know, in any of your local clubs and bars now, because it's getting popular. It's pretty much all coming from Oaxaca. And to have an opportunity to walk around one of those agave ranches and to look at the different agave plants, to get to know the different types of mezcal, it's a much different experience than any other kind of liquor, any other kind of alcohol. And the reason they call it mezcal is because it carries to the local people a spirit. And if you look at the other things that are in this culture that carry the same root words, mescalina, they relate the same spirit of peyote, of San Pedro, of the mushrooms, of mezcal as well. They call it mezcalito. It's this spiritual essence that's behind these things. So mezcal itself, they don't even really consider as something to get drunk on. And I was speaking with Santos the other day. It has plenty of medical implications. You can infuse herbs into your mezcal, like romero, which is rosemary. If you infuse your mezcal with rosemary, you essentially have a tincture that's going to help breathing. There's other herbs, yerba dulce, and all sorts of yerba negra, that different families up in the mountain infuse with mezcal. I know a family that has like 15 or 20 different bottles of mezcal at all times with different things infused, because this one helps with the altitude, this one helps with stomach ache, this one helps with a headache, all sorts of different things, where now you've taken what used to be just something for pleasure and it's turned into a tincture, it's turned into, you know, a medical use. It actually has that ability. There's a funny saying that they say mezcal cleans the mouth, puts a glint in the eye, and settles the tummy. It's one of the quickest ways when you change the ecosystems here to replenish your gut, to get prepared for the new environment. So essentially, if you go from the high pine forest, the bacteria that you're breathing in is entirely different when you drop down an hour and a half into the next cloud layer. The air has changed completely. The bacteria is totally different. The jungle is more abundant. There's tropical plants. And in order to prepare the body for that, it helps to have a little bit of mezcal to go down to kill the stomach bacteria that you needed from the high mountain, so that you can breathe in the new environment and start getting accustomed to the new area quicker. So there's a lot of ways to be able to use what people think are just for pleasure to enhance your state of life, to enhance your quality of life as well. And it's amazing to get in tune, to get synchronized up with a place like this. Were you wanting to say anything else?
I would love to hear more if you've got more. That's all I'd like to do. Because you've said some stuff too the other day that was quite astounding, that you haven't even included this so much, you know. So it's up to you. If you feel like you want to add anything else, you can. But what do you think? You mentioned mushrooms, didn't you?
Mm-hmm. We didn't talk about the bioluminescence.
Oh,
Let's do that. Okay.
please.
So this is definitely one of the other more extremely magical parts of Oaxaca, of some of the parts of the Pacific coast here. There's bioluminescent plankton and bacteria basically that live in the ocean and in the laguna here, and then along the sands of the coast. And the new moon is the best time to see because it's totally black sky and there's not much illumination above you. So as you walk along the wet sands at nighttime on the beach, you feel like you're in a video game, because every step you have this electrical pad that lights up around every foot with each step as you activate these bioluminescent plankton. They're extremely small, you can't see them, but they're activated by motion, literally. So as each step that you make, it lights up like a lily pad, like a blue electrical lily pad under your foot as you step. It's absolutely magical. It's freaking magnificent. And that's just here in the ocean. And then when you go swimming, you move your hands through the water. As you move your body, they're trailing behind you. This electrical movement through the water is trailing behind you. Over your arms, you can see it slide. Through your feet as you kick your legs in the ocean. And then if you go back into the laguna on a boat during a new moon, the fish that swim through the water, they look like little lightning bolts because it's motion activating this bioluminescence. So the trails of the fish look like lightning trails through the water. And you can be on the boat and the fish will jump out and re-enter the water, and you see the gap in the water from where they exited and re-enter after their jump. It's absolutely incredible. It's a trip without having to be honest. It's one of the most incredible natural displays I've ever seen. And all through the month, there's things like this that you can take part in. In the full moon, when there's not much bioluminescence, the waves are better. In the new moon, you can explore the whole bioluminescence, go fishing at night, catch little fishes. When you throw the net out on the water at night, you can see the formation of the rope lines of the net land on the water and create the diagram of the netting on the water before you pull it back up. It's incredible. It is one of the most just sensitive and abundant places on the planet, and then electric. It's clearly just electric. Between the nighttime lightning storms that sometimes are absolutely silent, even though they're right in front of you. You almost get no thunder sometimes, and you get flashes so big it lights it up like daytime. Last year, towards the end of the rainy season, I think it was September, October, there was a storm up in the mountains, out in the distance, over a mountain range, and it was red strikes of lightning. Red strikes. I mean, it looked like the blood red veins if you were to map out the body, but shooting through the sky. So these red veins of electricity, and then within the clouds, it was making the clouds light up pink because it was red strikes, and that's because of the static content of the air during that storm. And I just relaxed in a hammock and watched the show the whole night until 4 in the morning. Just meditating and watching this storm. Incredible. No complaints. Got up, did the whole next day of work with energy, because I think when you experience something like that, it's a lot more of a reward. Hey, do you want to get this on camera? I'll take some. You can drop them off. Sí. Solo crema y chocolate, por favor. Gracias, tía. ¿Cómo está pasando el día?
Así, bien tranquilo.
Muy bien, muy bien.
No pasa nada.
Siempre, no pasa nada. Sí, tengo. Eso. Creo más gente llegando hoy también.
Sí.
Ajá.
Tranqui.
Sí, él llegue hoy en la mañana.
Ya dice que es muy bonito, ¿le gusta?
Sí, do you like it here?
Muchísimo.
Sí, rico.
Rico, mágico,
Mágico. Bueno,
magnético.
Gracias, tía.
qué rico. Lo comparten todos.
Sí.
Es beautiful.
¿Qué son?
Pruébalo, son platanitos muy ricos.
Platanitos.
Pero doble rico.
Ah, comí como un montón de
Gracias,
comida,
tía.
gracias.
Mañana nos vemos.
Ok, abundancia, que vendes todo.
Gracias, bebé. Deseame mucha suerte.
Sí, siempre tenemos.
Siempre. Ya, está borrachita. Pareció feliz, nene.
Okay, so what I'll do is I will put the camera back on you.
Do you want to try it?
Oh yeah, I'll have one.
Fried banana.
There you go.
Alright. Is it okay if I have this little sip of juice here?
Yeah, you go for it.
Oh man, but yeah, so as you can see, the people here also carry a different kind of genetic line as well in Chacahua. Different than, I think there's only one other or two other places in Mexico that are like this. The genetics are what they call Afro-Mexicano. And it's because there was actually, I'm not 100% keen on the truth of the legend, but it was either a ship that crashed here or a ship that came here carrying a slave population during the 17 or 1800s, and the people just integrated into the community here. So now they call them Afro-Mexicano or Morenos, and they have a darker skin because it's actually a native mix of the native genetics with this black population that ended up here. And I love that, to be honest. What's that?
What was that woman just there? Was she one?
She's local to here.
And that's who you're describing, the
Yeah.
Afro-American.
Yep.
Okay, and they're local here in Oaxaca.
Mostly just here to Chacahua, just to this island.
Just this island.
Yeah, they're native just to this island. Yeah.
So that woman I filmed, that is
Yes.
a people from the tribe, from this island only.
Only. She is a genetic derivative of a phenomenon in human nature in general. And that's what's so amazing to me. And I think that's also what makes these people here in Oaxaca, or not just in Oaxaca, but here on this island, some of the most powerful people in Oaxaca, some of the strongest people here, because their genetics are of such a varying difference that only now, after hundreds of years, are they starting to see genetic complications, whereas other places in Chiapas or in Mayan tribes across Guatemala, Central America, just like in Japan, the genetics were only contained inside themselves for hundreds or thousands of years, that you saw a lot more genetic complications. But here you have some of the most physically capable people that I think their genetics will persist a lot longer here because of that diversity. They say a lot of the sicknesses that and the illnesses that plagued humanity before, or wiped out the major populations of humanity, scientists discovered it wasn't because of illnesses, it was because of weak genetics. And apparently, upon further research, you can look this up, but upon research, scientists were able to isolate those genetics and to find out which genetics were the least capable of sustaining life over longer generations, over a period of time. They were able to isolate those genes. So this is a phenomenal place. It carries a certain strength that a lot of other places in the world don't know. And it definitely adds to the character of the people here, which I love, because you kind of have this, in a way, you still have that kind of African flair, that strength, the prominence, and then it's mixed with the fun, flowy, Hispanic, South Mexican kind of nature, with their forms of bachata, merengue, different forms of fun dance music and stuff like that. But you've got this strength of character that comes from the African genetics, where it just makes the culture here so much fun. You know, people are a lot more okay and confident to, you know, to mess with each other, to yell around at each other, to joke and play. They have that fun, flowy capacity just to interact more like that. And I love that. I used to work in Los Angeles doing door-to-door sales across some of the not so good parts of Los Angeles, but I loved it because I love culture, and I love strong culture, and I love people who are strong within themselves and stand up for what they love and what they believe in. And LA to me was a great, huge combination of a lot of Hispanic cultures and some black cultures as well. And of course, everything, Korean, there's so many people in LA in general, and so many different cultures represented there. But to come here, to find this island, and to find a place on Earth that kind of had a natural mix of African and Hispanic or Mexican genetics and vibrations and culture and way of communicating, really spoke to my soul, really was fun for me to connect with, because it's amazing to be pushed by a community to break out of yourself a bit more, you know, to speak up for yourself, to not be so timid, but to still be fun and to joke and to laugh and to dance, you know, and to have a good time. And I think a lot of those things are represented here, right in Chacahua. So it's a place that really speaks to my heart. I really love it here. I don't think I personally want to leave Oaxaca unless it's only to go somewhere else for a short time. But this is my home.
It's mine too.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave you.
Yeah.
I really don't want to leave you.
And no, I have no anytime people ask me, you know, if I'm going back to America or when I'm going back to America, I stutter, you know, I stumble because to me it's, well, for what? You know, that's always how I feel, is for what? You know, yes, I have family there. Yes, I grew up there. But if I found that my roots connect to another place better, then what would I not reroute myself for? You know, what would I not explore what a place has for me? Why would I not dig in deep to a place that's providing for me with the little bit of work that I'm doing to give back? So I don't want to leave Oaxaca. I love it here. This is my new foundation on earth, and I will only vacation out of here and come back, but I'm going to be working on getting my residency soon.
Yep.
Because
Me too.
yeah,
Me too. I'm doing it.
yeah, you're working on getting your residency.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm going for automotive Mexico. Mexico is the Mecca. It's the Mecca.
it is.
This is the Garden of Eden. This place is exquisite. It is paradise.
Yeah,
It's the most marvelous place I've ever been to on earth, and it's so healing.
yeah, it is. It can be extremely healing, and that's what's amazing too. It's funny to see the people who of course you get the travelers who come to Mexico ready to have their beers and drink on the beach and kind of in a more of a party tourist fashion, which is okay. It's natural. It happens. That kind of also formed naturally out of Cancun, Puerto Vallarta, all these places that created that vibration in the first place. But it's amazing to see those travelers come to places like this in Oaxaca and what comes out of them, how they change in a short amount of time. I think when you're in a place where the energy is so high, vibrating so beautifully, so powerfully, if you're not in touch with yourself, if you're not in tune with your own past, if you don't know your own trauma, it comes out of you. These places pull it out of you. It makes you face who you are in a short amount of time. The energy of this place naturally, in a way, promotes consciousness. It absolutely does. And it's the people who, well, aren't conscious of that process or don't want it that sometimes have tough emotional experiences here because they're working through these energies that they've been carrying inside. They're working through, maybe things that they've been carrying. Some people, I've even heard of and seen exorcisms take place here, where people fully had to let go of demonic spirits that they didn't know they were carrying. And the spirit of this place is so pure, it pushes it out. It forces it out. It's amazing, but it's a good place if you're ready for that. You know, if you want that, if you want the authentic life, if you want something that puts the mirror in front of your face, so you look at who you are and you can look into your heart and you can look into your psyche. This is a place for that. Let's see. Well, and exactly what we were saying. What we were saying earlier about the culture here specifically, it doesn't go for all of Mexico. It just goes for this island. This island is specifically Afro-Mexican, the nature of it because of a ship that came here carrying a slave population. But as I was saying earlier in the video, there's over 60 native languages outside of Spanish that are spoken throughout Mexico. So do remember that what I'm saying is not only relating just to Hispanics, or I'm not just talking about Mexico, I'm specifically just talking about this island, which is extremely small. We're talking about maybe from where I am to the other end of the island, I think 5 kilometers down there. So it's not that big of a space. And to have that kind of diversity or that kind of a unique legend and a story just for this place and not for the state or something like that is what makes it unique. Because you're right, there's definitely other identity and culture within Mexico, and that creates or takes what most people just umbrella as Hispanic and turns it into so many different worlds and ways of living. You're absolutely right. But those are location dependent within Mexico. And this location itself, being as small as it is and having such a unique genetic population, is what I was speaking to earlier. And they call it Afro-Mexican or Moreno, and that's what the local people call it. So I'm just the Morenos, yeah. And those are just terms that I've learned and picked up from the local people here as well, that they use to describe themselves. So without being, you know, too specific or needing to get into the science of it, that's just the actual like genetic history of this island.
What's the population?
It's not too big, to be honest. The population, I think, of this island is only a few hundred. It's definitely no more than 1,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah, it's only
It's just one race.
Yeah.
One group of people.
Yeah.
People.
Yeah. It's
And what are they called?
well, they call themselves like Afro-Mexican, Afro-Mexicano. I have a friend who over at a restaurant a few lots down. The name of their restaurant is Afrodita, and his daughter he named Afrodita because it's kind of like a term for, like, you know, a little Afro-Mexican child, and it's kind of it's a cute little term of endearment, is how they use it and how they consider themselves. And they hold themselves quite proudly as well, which they deserve to, you know, as any culture, as any kind of unique race or population. But to be this small of a population in one place and have persisted for over 100, 200 years in abundance and not needing the outside world is a phenomenal aspect. It's definitely something to consider because, you know, in a lot of places where sugar and alcohol have plagued Mexico, have plagued it, there's still a good portion of the population here that has not given into the beer, you know, into the Corona and Victoria and stuff like that, and they keep their kids off of the bad sugars, you know. So it's amazing to be in a place that's in a way so isolated that they can maintain being self-sufficient. They can maintain their own identity. They can maintain that sense of purity in a way. But like we were talking earlier, it's also genetic diversity that creates strength within genetics, and they're just now starting to see some of those kind of genetic medical issues pop up as well. So it's starting to be time to kind of intermix the population again before they create any more genetic difficulties, because that's how some autism or Down syndrome can arise, is too much mixing within the same genetic pool.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So it's getting to be time for them to start mixing from outside again. Yeah.
Yeah. And are these people related?
I think originally, that it is a mix of Zapoteco people with the Afro tribe that landed here, or the black people that landed here.
Right.
So you've got the strength of the Zapoteco people in the blood and in the land, and then you also have, you know, the strength and the perseverance of a slave tribe, you know, or that landed here, and the African genetics as well. So that's what made them, I think, some of the most capable to survive out of the different genetic kind of pools, being as isolated as they are here in Mexico. You know, it's amazing though. All throughout South America, Central America, and Mexico, you find different kind of tribes like this. In Peru, on Lake Titicaca, there is a tribe of people that survived not only the Incans, but the Spanish as well. They're older than both of them, and they did it by creating floating islands on the lake. They use a certain reed, a plant that grows there. They bundle them together in in big blocks like hay bales that you see horses eating, basically. And then they tie each of those blocks together to make a giant floating pad. And that's how they survived the Incan crusades and the Spanish crusades there in Peru. They're older than, they're some of the oldest people in Peru. And they did that by creating floating islands. And what's even more amazing is the local people there on the lake. It's a freshwater lake. I don't know if anyone knows about Lake Titicaca in Peru, but if you don't, look it up.
Oh, they will.
Yeah, look it up, because it's supposed to be one of the, it's supposed to be the sacral chakra of planet Earth, apparently. So it's definitely one of the more energetically powerful places on the planet. But it's a fresh body of water, and the local people have such strong systems they can drink the water directly. And that reed that they make the hay bales and make the islands out of, they can eat that reed as well. So they didn't need anything. They would just float on this island, eat the reed, and drink the water from the lake beneath their feet. and survived some of the most horribly murderous, conquests in history. Simply, very simply, and still to this day they're able to show people and share that history. And there's incredible mini cultures like that, like this, all over Central America, Mexico, South America. And it's amazing just to take time not only to learn about something like that, but to tap into it, to get a little bit more accustomed to the community, to learn about it, to meet the people, to see the way of life and understand what true self-sufficiency is. Self-sufficiency has become a huge topic in this flattened world, in the do-it-yourself age. Even in Burning Man, one of the principles of the original Burning Man was radical self-sufficiency. Because, and I believe this as well, you can't provide for anybody else if you can't provide for yourself. So if you have love for yourself, you have love to share with other people. If you have food for you, you have the ability to share with other people. And when we learn to be radically self-sufficient, then we become radical sharers, and we become radical community members, because we know what it takes to provide for us. We know what it means to get our own. We know what work it takes. We know what food we need, you know what I mean? So when you see someone else in need, you're a little bit more capable to be able to provide because you've taken care of yourself. You're not worried about you anymore. You're so radically self-sufficient in your daily life that you have an abundance to give. And this is a place that can help teach that. This is a place that can help indoctrinate people into these ways of living. And same with the mountains there. You have so much produce in those mountains. You can build with the adobe mud up there. The wood from the trees provides for building materials. Everything you can gather within a half-mile radius or even smaller. And practicing living self-sufficient, it spreads into the rest of your life. It spreads into your mentality when you go out and you go shopping and you look at things and you ask yourself, do I really need this? Or is this just a joy purchase? And you look at these things that are on the shelf, and you go into a gas station, you watch you look at the foods, the packaged crap, and more and more you deconstruct, you break down what you think you need, because it was all just thought that was programmed into us anyways. It's commercials, it's advertising, it's programs that tell us that we need, when in reality we just want stuff, and we barely even are in touch with ourselves or our land to know what we need in the first place. So it's good to have enough time in a land to live simply, to get in touch with what you need, realistically, just to survive and to become self-sufficient. And the more that you provide for yourself and what you need, it's easier to share, to provide for other people. It's more fun, it's more beautiful to be able to share once you've provided for yourself, because that ego's out of the way. When you take care of your own, when you have self-love, then you have love to share. When you love yourself enough to rise above your ego and its fears and its desires, you have such an abundance to give, and you know what it means to give, and it feels so nice to be able to give, and that becomes a healing experience. All of that becomes a healing experience. I think that's why people like Santos and I are so captivated by being here. Because there's really nothing like walking under a mango tree and just reaching up and grabbing your breakfast. There's nothing like that. You can't explain that to someone who lives in a city. You can, but they don't get it until they do it. And they don't even get what it means until they do it for a few months in a way where it's provided for their life, because that mango is what clears out their gut from the bad bacteria the day before to keep them healthy from the mosquitoes biting them, to adapt to the new bacteria of the environment, to wash away the dengue that you might have gotten infected by. It's the natural land that provides all of these things. And you don't get that until you do it, until you go through it, until it's a part of your practice, until it becomes a part of your character. And then we realize how important it is to depend on the land, to take what's growing in season. So there's a lot more to this place than just tourism. There's a lot more to this place than just surfboards and Mai Tais, and margaritas. And it's beautiful to come here in a state of living rather than a state of touring. It's a totally different mentality to be a tourist versus someone living in a place like this. It's a completely different mentality, and you see it over time. When you're living in a place like this, you're far more conscious of you know, what's happening around you, what you want for that day, what your body needs, what your heart is telling you. The synchronicities that happen as you walk around town become more undeniable. You know, there's no questioning the people that you meet, when you see them, you know, how you run into them. All of it just, it becomes more clear. Life gets more clear. There's far less questions in what you're doing and where you're going when you simplify your practices. And the city modern life is not just so demanding, but so oversaturating that it distracts us from the simplicity of what we actually operate on and what actually brings us abundance versus the over abundance and gluttony that becomes our lives when we live in this kind of modern clustered world. And it's not until we let go of and shed those things that we get down to our natural core, our natural center, and we can regrow out of that. I see it a lot in Mexico. You see people who come, and they come as a tourist, but they fall in love with it, and over 6 months or a year, you'll usually see them get skinnier or a bit smaller. You can tell they're letting go of these things, of this energy that they carried. You know, they're letting go of their past. They're entering more and more into the now moment. And usually all these people will hit some turning point where they get almost as skinny as they can, almost as broken down, as stripped down of those old things as they can, and then they start growing back again. You see them getting stronger, the muscle comes in better, their skin is more firm, they have more of a natural resilience to the mosquitoes. You know, their bone structure changes, and it's beautiful to see how a place can do that, how it can break you down so that you can rebuild yourself. But most people don't get that experience while they're traveling. You just get some traveler's diarrhea and you think it's bad food that you had, when in reality it might be something purging out of your spirit. It might be something being removed from your soul. And it's not until you hunker down and reroot yourself in a place that you can go through that full transformational experience. So there's a huge difference between traveling and living in a powerful place. There's a difference between a spiritual tourist and someone who is connected to a land and is ready to grow out of it. There are horses on the island, actually. That's a great question. There's a few horses on the island, and but otherwise they're very watchful of what animals come here, because, you know, it's a self-contained ecosystem. Just recently someone brought some cats here to the island, and before there were almost no cats on the entire island. And now, just in like 6 months, there's like 2 or 3 different branching families of cats that are growing and living in abundance. But the families now are learning how to work with and have them on their property in harmony, and how the cats keep the rats and the mice away and stuff like that. But it is one of those very sensitive ecosystems where they have to be extremely watchful as to what new animals they bring onto the island, as to, you know, the dog population on the island and how it grows. You got to be careful of that. Because when there's too many street dogs, then it's easier to spread disease. It's easier to have issues of contamination and things like this. But there are horses on the island. That's a great question. Santos, did you have anything that...
Yes, one more thing. You were speaking about the spirit of the dog, the canine, and the spirit of the cat, the feline, the difference. One is solar and one is lunar. Is that true? How explain that?
Well, so from what I've learned from the bits and pieces that I've gotten to learn from the natural witchcraft culture here, there are black magicians and there are white magicians. There are magicians who work through fear and manipulation, and there are magicians who work through good action. And apparently some of the most powerful white magicians on the planet might not even know that they are that powerful. They don't even know that they carry that force, some of them, because they're working through such an innocent place, that their purity goes beyond knowing. It's a type of consciousness that extends beyond, you know, the egoic self-knowing. So it's a really interesting thing. But they say that actually, I'm a former cat guy too. I only had black cats growing up, which is why I think I have great luck, because I don't believe in luck now. But They say that most white magicians work with and connect with the spirit of dogs, whereas most black magicians work with and connect with the spirit of cats. That's not to say that cats are bad. It's just a difference of the energy that they carry. The feline, the feminine, that black cat is the obscuridad. You know, it has that openness to travel through, I think, a bit easier than the dog, which is a bit more pure and loyal and wants to be by man's side because it knows the benefit of a recycling and reciprocating friendship. So those animals carry different spirits, and the magicians here throughout Mexico and Oaxaca can utilize those animals and travel within the spirit of those animals in different ways. It's pretty incredible what you can learn about stuff like that here in a short amount of time, and how understanding, you know, the nature of black and white, of yin yang, understanding the nature of harmony, and how, in essence, you know, we need both. And that to say that a black magician is a bad person is actually, we can't really say that, because they might just be trying to achieve the same thing as a white magician, but they're doing it through a different format. You know, love is one of the best motivators on the planet, but the other great motivator is fear, and that's just the truth. So I used to think that black magicians were all bad, but no, maybe they do plant fear, maybe they work with fear, but it doesn't mean that they're bad people, because maybe in their hearts there's that white dot, like there is in yang, of purity, that sees that they have the potential to get something good done by using a negative means of doing it. And sometimes, you know, there's people who make good actions, but maybe on the inside they're doing it through unawareness or ignorance. They don't realize the good actions that they're taking. They don't even realize the purity that they're sharing, because that would change their ability to do it in that way, having awareness of it. So harmony is really kind of the key there, and understanding that there's a difference between something being good and bad is also just a creation of mankind, and something that we have told ourselves that there is, and probably just a way of subjugating people into categories or into church and into greater parts of the system, because fear is a good motivator. It's a good way to cause action to happen. But it's amazing to meet powerful people. If you've never gotten a tarot card reading from a witch, it's something I recommend that you do if you have the opportunity at some point in your life, or play a game of chess with a witch, because things seem to feel like they mean a lot more in that game of chess when she looks at you in the eyes and says, "Protect your horse," you know. Yeah. Oh no, like it's and I make the joke, but truly there's some interesting power and forces in the world around us, and going to places where it carries an energy that supplements that magic, you get to understand those forces a bit more, because these forces aren't just here on this island. There's a puppy trying to chill with us, but he's bringing all the bugs. Yeah, she doesn't want to go either. She's like, no.
Come on. Vamos.
Okay, there we go. That's the only thing. Animals are good, but having you gotta watch out when you're on an island. Every single part of the population matters and changes things, and that's another reason I believe that this is the Garden of Eden. When I was here before, I felt this sense of every action that I made, every thought that I had more of a global impact, which is weird. But if you believe in holistics, if you believe in holistic medicine, if you believe that everything is connected to something else, then your action is spiritually connected to something else in the world, or in your community, or in your household, or anywhere. You know, that's why some of the most powerful white magicians don't even know they are, because they might just be mopping a floor, and some people would call them schizophrenic, but maybe inside their mind they're channeling to someone on the other side of the world, helping them heal, bringing light and inspiration, but they're not even aware of that. They're just mopping a floor and going through a process. But magic travels within our actions as well. not just within our force of mentality and of heart, it travels within our actions as well. The island, you spell Chacahua, Chacahua, and I'm sure you can get in touch with Santos afterwards as well, and he can write that to you. Gracias, gracias. But yeah, it's amazing to get to know the energies that we work with, and it's cool to be in a place where you can feel that sense of responsibility to yourself, to your community, where you know that every action you take means more, not just because someone's watching it, not just because, you know, like you throw trash in a protected system and that's more of a problem. No, littering and throwing trash anywhere is an issue. But when you get in a place where you can see that reflection, like I was saying earlier, you have this mirror in front of your face with every action that you take, and you can see the reflex or the effects and the reflections of what you're doing. It creates awareness, it builds awareness, and it really can help those of us who think that our lives don't matter have a lot more meaning. When you feel that just because you're cleaning rocks out of someone's sandy, spot on the beach, that you think it's not a big deal, but then afterwards that sand is clean and clear. No one's going to stub their toes. While you're cleaning it, other people are watching you. Within those days after, people get inspired and start cleaning their patches of sand as well. We don't have that kind of moral mirror in front of our faces and in front of our actions that much. We feel drowned up and swallowed by the world and by the system, and it's hard nowadays to even think or feel that what we're doing has an impact at all. So I definitely implore you guys to get at some point in your life into a small community, and especially some sort of small native community, where you can get in touch with your every action, with your every breath, with your every thought, with your every step. Because if you step in the wrong place with barefoot and a scorpion stings you, you're out for 2 or 3 days or a week maybe. If you're not looking and you step on a fish bone, or if you're throwing your fish bones on the ground as you're eating and it stabs someone's foot, this is an issue. If you're walking under a coconut tree and don't look out and you get hit with a coconut on the head, it can kill you. So living in paradise is, it still requires consciousness, and if anything, a lot more. Laying around in a hammock all day is a beautiful thing to do, but if you're getting bit by mosquitoes and if you're not eating natural fruits and flushing out your body with good water and fluids, then eventually that bacteria builds up and you get a sickness. But if you know how to maintain yourself, if you know how to eat off of the land, if you know how to build your immunity, and if you're aware that your every action matters, then you make your actions in better ways. It's this inspiration of accountability for what we're doing, and it's hard to feel that inspiration. It's hard to give ourselves that rightful accountability in a city when you feel drowned out or swallowed by millions of other people who are just running in their rat races as well. It's hard to feel that you have much of an impact, but I promise you that you do. Every single person on this planet and every action they make is impacting not only them but someone else at some point somewhere else in the world. And it's really important to be aware of that kind of stuff. It's really important to be aware of the thoughts that are going through your mind while you are doing an action, while you are making a work, while you're completing a job. Being up in those mountains, it's mushroom mountains, like I was saying. And at first, I had this idea of kind of viewing myself almost as a guide or as a shaman for the people who coming there to have these mushroom experiences. And over time, my idea of what a shaman is has completely changed. It's not someone who needs to be there and hold your hand through this process. Sometimes they don't need to be next to you at all because it's your process. We all need to go through our own trips, our own experiences in our own ways. And yeah, sometimes that can be heavy, and it's good to have someone there to provide the space. And that's what I think a shaman truly is. That's what I think a spiritual leader truly is. It's someone who knows how to habit, another dog, but it's someone who knows how to hold space, how to create an energetic environment to have an experience in. If your household is full of aggression, anxiety, of of a need to be perfect, which creates more imperfection. I promise you, nowadays I'll walk into that house and I'll know it. I know I've become extremely aware of the vibrations of a place that I'm in, because it's space holding that determines the actual response of the experience that you have. It's how someone creates the environment. When you walk in, the best places make you feel at home when you get there. As soon as you get there, the best places on earth, your best friends, your best family members, they make you feel at home when you get there. And we all know home is where the heart is. So if you're creating a natural environment of heart energy, of love, of coddling, of openness, of there's no mistakes, there's only learning and growth, then this is true shamanism to me. This is truly giving someone the tools to grow spiritually on their own. It's space. It's all about space holding. It's not about hand holding. It's not about lessons or teaching someone. I don't think as much as giving someone the space to have their own lessons, to have their own revelations. If they don't feel comfortable enough, they don't feel open enough to explore the ethereal world, what revelation will they have? They'll just not be comfortable and probably want to leave that space within their trip, and you just learn that that's not a good space you want to be in. So that's why, to me, I'm really learning that I can do more for my people in those hostels when they come through for their mushroom trip by just creating a good environment that makes them feel okay to be who they are, that makes them feel okay just to be there, to light up a fire, to have a nice hot cup of coffee, to spill something in the kitchen, and it doesn't matter. I think the first step towards perfection is making peace with imperfections. And that's the only way that we can wholesomely absorb our space, that we can enter into our space, that we can enter into ourselves. Because a lot of time when we reject our own self-image, it allows for no space. It closes up entirely the opportunity to grow. I always tell people that the worst thing that they can do to themselves is self-judgment. It doesn't mean that whatever you do is okay and it's all roses. No, but if you realize you've made a mistake, if you made an accident, just don't judge yourself for it. Learn from it and do better next time. But it's the self-judgment that creates a compounding, dense, dark space within yourself, and it's really like a black hole. It just is dense matter that continues to compound and compound and compound, and that's no environment to grow. Eventually all it's going to do is implode upon itself until someone either collapses or breaks free into the revelation. Creo uno, por favor. Tengo 10 aquí. Sí, doña. Tostadas de coco con canela, cinnamon, all handmade. Oh, we're running out of battery here.
Oh no, man, stick that in.
Okay.
It can't run out of battery.
We're still good for a while though, I think, 20%. Solo tengo 10 pesos. ¿Está bien que llevo uno? Sí? Okay.
So what is that?
Tostadas de coco. Handmade tostadas with coconut fiber, and it's roasted with canela, with cinnamon. Basically, especially if you put like any kind of jelly or something on it, or you have it with your coffee, it's amazing.
So I think we have. How's it going? How's it going, friends? Are you enjoying this? This has been such a pleasant afternoon here on the island of Chacahua. I met Andrew a few days ago and we have been so blessed with each other's friendships. What we've been able to exchange between the two of us has been absolutely incredible. So are you enjoying it? Can I get a few words before I hand over to Andrew? He's doing so well. Got so much information about this triad of the Garden of Eden where I am living. And it's why after I did my presentation in Mexico City, I came...
No, I'm seeing Doña Reina. Yeah, like that. Oh, yeah? Yeah, welcome.
I came here because they said Mazunte is a magic place and it is a portal and it is the southernmost point in Mexico. And in Oaxaca. So essentially here Andrew's speaking about Oaxaca and the island we are on now, about an hour away from Mazunte where I live, called Chacahua,
Yeah, but you can like walk.
and it
on
has
the
its
boat,
own
like,
people,
feet under you.
like 1,000 people in their tribe.
Enjoy.
I'm gonna let Andrew eat his beautiful dessert for a bit, but it's only fair. But I just wanted to see if I can add to some of the beautiful things you've been sharing. I did go to Chiapas, San Cristobal, very cold up in the mountains there. I did film some of the Tartarian beautiful buildings in San Cris. Went to Palenque, it was closed, but we did see some ruins around the place, and you reminded me yesterday that you have who owns that land where I was standing on from the ancient Mayan
Ruins.
lineage.
Yeah, it's been passed down through families still. But yeah, I can definitely chat about Palenque and the special energy there. Yeah, go ahead and tell me a little. I'll be right back.
Right, beautiful. So I have been to Chiapas. Chiapas is pretty much like Oaxaca in that they have a high density of indigenous people, more so in Chiapas. No thanks, I'm good. Yeah, thanks brother. I might try one of these bananas.
So good.
Mmm. Wow. That's solid. So, the magic of Chiapas is the highlands, the forests, the indigenous people, the very, very Tartarian cities built on the hilltops. But then Oaxaca is something quite its own. Oaxaca is the exception here in Mexico. I had a friend 20 years ago who came here. We used to always speak about how wonderful Oaxaca is. So it was always on my mind to come to Oaxaca, and now I'm gonna remain here forever. I ain't going anywhere. I ain't leaving this place. Nope. I've been to some beautiful places in Costa Rica and Nicaragua where I would live as well, but there's nothing like Mexico. Nope. This is the culture, Mecca culture of the universe. Right here. It is the Garden of Eden. I have been blessed since I got here, March the 15th. I was in Mexico City in February 20th to March the 15th. And it was totally a different lifestyle. I didn't like it, did not like Mexico City. I did like the Tartarian buildings there, did a few lives. Went to Teotihuacan, went to the villa of the Guadalupe, the Virgin of Guadalupe, Tonantzin. So we did a bit there in Mexico, but when I came here, something quite different was palpable. Something really, really, I'm sorry, I'm not really focusing on my camera on myself too well, but I find that I get a bit of volume with the wind by putting the phone down that way. So anyway, the magic is quite spectacular. There's portals everywhere. The place is full of portals. It's full of great energy centers. Where I live at the moment in Mazunte is on a hill on Mermejita Beach. Mermejita, it's famous beach, one of the most famous beaches in all of Mexico, Mermejita Beach. I had a cabin there for 2 months, right on the black beach sand. And then I moved up the hill, right up the top of Mermejita Hill. And I have to climb 177 steps to get to my place. 177 steps. And sometimes I have to go up and then down 6 or 7 times a day. I'm running very much. I've never ever been in a community so beautiful, so loving, so peaceful, so wonderful. Every second person is a therapist, a masseuse, a masseur. I'm doing cranial sacral therapy. I'm doing biomagnetic healing. I'm doing water massage therapy where Lucero, my good friend, massages me with his arms in the water. I'm floating with face up, and he ducks me under the water and turns me and manages my spine. He's corrected a lot of scoliosis. He has corrected my neck. Thank you. I have had knots in my neck for years, and he removed them. They were there for I don't know how many decades. Anyway, he removed.
She's like, but I love you. I know.
Wow, that's nice, man. Oh, okay. I'm munching on that coconut. What is it?
Coconut tostada.
Coconut tostada.
Handmade with cinnamon
Mhm.
and love.
Mhm. So what was I saying?
No, you're getting your neck corrected.
Yeah.
Knots removed.
So that was blocking the oxygen getting to my brain. So now, since Lucero's been massaging me both on both on a table and in the water, I've had about 10 massages from this guy. I'm really feeling the difference health-wise. More good energy going to the head, more oxygen, better thinking, clearer, more balanced thinking, etc. So that's been good. The healing protocols that I do, you can get anything here in Mazunte, you know. The arts and crafts and culture and cuisine are the best. Mole comes from here, doesn't it? Mole?
Mole?
Yeah.
Europe?
Yeah, mole.
I actually don't know.
I think mole is from Oaxaca.
Mole.
Mole.
Yeah, yes. There are 7 original types of mole.
Yeah?
Uh-huh.
Can you
Yeah.
talk about some?
Yeah, so there's 7 original types of mole. The most popular one is like the black mole. That's the one that has chocolate that a lot of people know about internationally. But there's 2 types of yellow mole. There's 2 types of green mole. There's the black mole. That makes what? That's 5 right there. There's 2 other kinds that I forgot about. I think there's 2 types of black mole. But there's a restaurant in Oaxaca City that you can try all 7, and they let you try all the 7 different types of the mole, and you choose your 2 favorites, and then they prepare you a dish, like a traditional dish you would be making with that mole. So usually the yellow moles are with mushrooms with hongos. The green moles are much more herbal and carry like yerba santa, chipil, which I was talking about earlier. And then the black mole became more of the more widely popular on the international scale because it has cacao in it. And if prepared right, all of them are extremely beneficial for health. So definitely something worth trying out if you get a chance at all. Shh. Dogs. Thanks, I swear. But yeah, did you get to talk about Palenque at all?
No.
Yeah?
Can you please?
Yeah, I can definitely do that.
Yeah, I put a bit up about a month ago on Palenque, so check it out, guys, on my YouTube channel. But you know about Palenque.
Yeah, I've learned a little bit. I know Palenque is technically one of the more powerful energetic spots on the earth as well. They say it's actually the center of androgynous energy, of the harmony of androgynous energy on planet Earth. And if you look at the map and extend a line from Palenque as the center of a circle up to the corner of the Yucatan, the very far northeast corner of the Yucatan, this is a radius here of an energetic circle that extends. The bottom of the circle goes down through Guatemala, back up through the Pacific, and hits right here. You can draw this on the map and do it with pen and pencil. And you can see how you draw from Palenque, the center line up to the top corner of the Yucatan, and then it goes up through Oaxaca, and then it goes up through like Veracruz as it crosses back over to the Yucatan. And that whole circle there carries some of the most energetically healing places on the planet, I think, and places for sexual healing, places for creative regeneration, places for emotional healing, places of getting in touch with your roots and your history, past lives. That whole circle, throughout Chiapas, they have some of the most incredible mineral waterfalls on the planet and mineral rivers. If anyone knows about the cenotes in the Yucatan and throughout parts of Chiapas as well, cenotes were created from the meteor strike that hit the Gulf of Mexico, and it was molten hot, like air bubbles rising up out of the ground. So a cenote is an underground fed pool of water, and that usually tunnel hundreds of meters down below the Earth's surface. And they were created by that meteor strike, and after the strike hit, under the ground, these molten air bubbles went up and burned these tunnels.
Me quedo acá. En esa campaña.
Perfecto.
Listo.
Sí.
Estamos viendo el rato de jugar al volei.
Ok.
Y hablamos.
Chiro,
Nos
sí.
vamos a ver por acá.
Sí, aquí.
imagino.
Sí. Nos vemos, hermano.
Dale.
Felicidades.
Gracias.
Sí. Yeah, there was a guy right there who came in yesterday, said he was only going to spend a night, and now he found a way to be able to relax for a couple weeks because he's fallen in love with it. That energetic circle there, with the center being Palenque and spreading out to the tip of the Yucatan down through Guatemala, passes right by Lago Atitlan. If anyone's heard of that, that's also another very healing center on planet Earth as well. Crosses under Mexico and curves straight up through here, through Punta Cometa, through this part of Oaxaca, and goes right up towards Veracruz on its way, crossing the Gulf and heading back around to the Yucatan. So within, if you that could be relatively also called the real true Garden of Eden of what we've been talking about, is the center, with Palenque being the center, and this whole southern part of Mexico here. But if you imagine like the heart has 4 chambers in it, and each of those chambers with a different function, or if you imagine the brain with its cortexes and each part of the brain having different functions, if you imagine the energetic ley lines that spread out from and within this circle, you know, with the center being Palenque, all of these different ley lines have massive different healing implications, possibilities, all the way extending from the Yucatan through those jungles, the Mayan jungles, over to Veracruz, down through Oaxaca here. And it makes sense as you travel these different places. You know, each state down here in southern Mexico is so different. Just in Oaxaca, like I was saying, you can travel 1 hour up the mountain. You're in a new ecosystem with a new energy, new flora and fauna, new animals, new fruit and wildlife. You can see this diversity, this energetic diversity being expressed in the land around you. It's not just something you feel as you spend time in these places, but it's something that the land shows us. It gives us signs that it's different, you know, just place by place in such a small proximity. Just really hard to find that kind of biodiversity anywhere else on the planet. But yeah, there's a lot worth tapping into here in this circle, in this Garden of Eden, in a way. And everywhere that I've gone within that circle carries not only a different energy, my body receives it differently, but also I go through different life lessons, different small paths or larger paths, or I close doors that were open before in my life, or open ones that were energetically shut off. It's really incredible. It's really incredible to traverse the land here and have enough time to kind of get in touch with the different parts of this kind of center of energy. Because some people say that Palenque is like a minor chakra on planet Earth, but technically it's more of a high energy portal or a stellar gateway, realistically. And while I was there in Palenque, as Santos was saying, I did in quite a haphazard way get to meet the man who owns that land, and it was amazing to hear kind of his visions for the actual land of Palenque. He owns 3/4 of the land as private property, and the part that you go into that's just the park is only 25% or less of the actual park of Palenque. And he's hoping to do something with it in a more humanitarian way, to offer people kind of a zoological opportunity to tour through and take part in interacting with animals, but also with kind of the roots of Mayan lifestyle there in that part of Chiapas. But it's it's really tough as well when you are the sole owner of and therefore carry the responsibility to do something good, in a positive and a what would you call it, an all-around moral way, with land like that's been protected so long, to a point where they still haven't even excavated a lot of that property. There's so many hidden pyramids there that there's trees growing out of, there's full jungles surrounding, because
I've seen it. I went and saw them.
yeah, and to be in that kind of diversity, to walk around that, to know that you're on sacred land that is that's so protected that most people don't even get to go there. It's pretty special, and to think that hopefully soon, one day, they will have that open more for the public is really inspiring as well. And a lot of people question why it would be privately owned. And in the end, I get that. I think that, we're used to things in America or in Europe being national parks or wildlife preserve centers and things like that. But maybe sometimes it's better to have a few powerful families protecting a place and doing better than a government can, than the government coming in and tearing down the trees and ripping it open. So I understand as well why that land is privately owned, why that land is protected and hasn't been too open to the public either, because it's something so not just historical, but carries such a spirit with it that you want to be really careful with what you do with it. You don't want to bring any negative vibrations back on your own life, because you sold your Mayan land to someone who just wants to turn it into an amusement park or something like this. That might bring some pretty intense spiritual implications. So I do understand why it's privately owned. I do understand why it's so heavily protected. But it's amazing to be in a place where it's like that. In Guatemala, it's the same, and in a lot of places where, like on Lago Atitlan, there's a mountain above San Juan, La Laguna, and it's called Rostro Maya, the Mayan face, or the Mayan nose, because if you look at the mountain, it looks like a face is laying down and looking at the sky, and the part of the mountain, the top part, is the nose of this Mayan face, and that's privately owned. You get up there and there's two old ladies with sticks who are collecting money from people, and chopping firewood, and they're strong women, they protect their land, like they love this land. And it's funny because you'd think that it would be a wildlife preserve or a national park or somewhere, because you still have to pay to enter to go on the trail, but that money is going towards the local people who are protecting it, and it's going towards the preservation of the land rather than towards a government, which I get that, and I get that there's going to be people who disagree with that, and there's people who agree with that, but it's just the way it is right now. And that's neat. I think we all kind of inside of ourselves know that we carry something within us unique that's worth protecting. That's why we all live each day and protect our lives and live the lives the way that we do. But when you actually carry something physical, when you protect a land, when you have an idea that you live for, that you protect, it means a lot more. It really does in the end. You know, when you have something that you know is that special, and you have to protect it both from your government and the people who are coming by to see it, kind of gives it a little bit more life, a little bit more reverence, than just being this public stomping grounds for anybody to come onto. So there's an interesting thing with the heritage here in Hispanic America, and how they have continued to protect the lands that they have. Do you want to say anything?
Wow, yeah, well, I see that because, oh, okay, you had it the other way.
I have about 5% battery too.
But how can that be?
I think this is good.
Has that gone? Okay. Let's try and put it on the other side. Does it matter if I put it on the other side?
I think the battery pack is good.
Alright, let's have a look at how much battery I've got. Okay, this could be going out any second then anyway, guys, so... But, that has been fabulous, your shares. This is the beautiful place we're living. It's just splendid. Chacahua.
We gotta get up to the lighthouse, man.
The lighthouse?
Yeah, so you can post some pictures of sunset from the lighthouse so they can see the ocean on both sides and the river behind us.
Right.
Because to have the aerial view from the lighthouse, you really get an idea of the lushness of the land. You can see the greenness and the river snaking through the through the laguna back here, and you can see where the ocean enters and how on the other side oceanic abyss, going out that way. But behind us is completely abundant green marshlands and life. And then just on the other side, you can barely see the ranches that are on the mainland, that have cattle and crops and all sorts of things like that. The diversity is immense.
Oh man, wow.
You can get just a little bit in the air to see it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's heart-opening. So hopefully we can get some pictures up for them as well.
Nice, nice. Hey, you know what? We're going to be here till Monday, so what do you think, guys, if I catch up again with Andrew and talk some more of this divine wisdom that he has? I'm just blown away. A young man, healthy, vibrant, absolutely consciously expanded, and this is the kind of people that I'm meeting every day. This is my community, friends. In fact, we came here with cars. My car that had 5 people in it, and Yusef's car that had 5. And you came on your own, and another guy came with his motorbike. So 12 of us, and that's only if a lot of ones cancelled. But from our group, our community that we have in Masunta, we all came out here to Chacahua just for the healing, and to be in solidarity, and to create and generate the kind of frequency that radiates from the heart, so that everyone has that feeling and everyone wishes to do good and love one another, and everything is in harmony. And so that's why we're here, and this place really, really brings that. It just really, really brings it.
Fosters growth.
And there's always the salesman coming along the
This is
beach.
the man who bathes in the waterfall every year.
He bathes in the waterfall
San Jose.
every year
In October.
in October.
Hola, Jose.
Hola, mejillones.
Apenas voy a comer.
¿Apenas?
Todo el día esperando.
¿Por qué?
Por allá tenía mi plato de desayuno cuando fuiste antes, entonces. Esto. Pero se aguanta, ¿no? Exactamente.
Aguantan hasta mañana.
Exactamente, exactamente.
Bien cocidos.
Ajá, hecho de mano. Muy bien, muy bien. ¿Sí? Entonces, tenemos me necesitas
Como 20.
5 pesos, ¿no? Te falta 5 pesos antes. Y tengo 5 aquí, ¿no? Luego te doy esos 5 por un otro boli si quieres. Y ya estamos. This is agua de coco with honey from his property, from bees that are in a piece of wood.
Wow.